from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. It's the second day of time trials, qualifications for the 76th running of the Indianapolis 500-mile race. Hello and welcome to Indy. I'm Paul Page, and we have had a most busy but disjointed weekend of time trials here. There are a good many stories, and we're going to try to tell them all for you. Now, those of you that are aware, you may remember that at the end of the day yesterday, we had a good many cars qualified, but there were still 4 key players. Eddie Cheever, Danny Sullivan, Michael Andretti, and the fastest man on the track in the month of May, Jim Crawford, still with an opportunity to run for the pole. So that set the stage for this day. And the action began during the morning's warm-up session. On the track, it was Tony Bentonhausen in the number 16 car. A show of vapor at the right rear of the car, and then suddenly, Bentonhausen was into the wall. But these cars are super strong, and they protect the driver whenever possible. And despite sliding to the infield grass, as soon as the emergency vehicles were there, Tony Bentonhausen climbed out of the car. Now let's go back and take a look at this accident as he slides sideways, and you can see the impact angle with the car and the wall is almost flat. That's the key factor here, because that kept any serious injury from happening in this accident with Tony Bentonhausen. Now let's take a look at the grid as it was at the end of the day yesterday, with Roberto Guerrero on the provisional pole, then Mario Andretti, Arie Luyendyk on the outside. In the second row, Gary Bentonhausen, Scott Brayton, and Rick Mears. The third row, Bobby Rahal, Emerson Fittipaldi, Al Unser Jr. In the fourth row, Stan Fox, John Andretti, rookie Eric Bachelard. The fifth row, Philip Gosch, another rookie, Scott Pruitt, and John Paul Jr. The sixth row, Paul Tracy driving for Roger Penske, Jeff Andretti, and the Canadian driver, Scott Goodyear. That's the starting grid at the end of time trials yesterday. So the action began at 12 noon here. Let's take you back to the very first run of the day with Danny Sullivan, as Bobby Unser, Sam Posey, and I called it. Brack, he was originally scheduled to qualify yesterday. The reason he didn't is fairly complex. Here's Gary Gerald.
And alongside is Rick Gallis, one of the owners with Maury Cranes of that car. We know that Guerrero brought out the yellow light. Danny didn't get a chance to come in and used up too much fuel. Was it simply a matter of time to refuel the car to get back in the
Yeah,
line?
it was, Gary. We just had a difficult time getting him back to the fuel center and then back out here. And by the time we got back out, then it was too late. So
how much did that cost you? Is it going to, because it's warmer today, will that deny you a chance to get a big speed?
Well, I think the conditions were actually better, but that's the rules, and we can't go beyond 6 o'clock, and so we just have to take what we can get.
Thank you, Rick.
Well, nevertheless, this run will count as a first-day run in qualifying. He has a chance for the pole as he has started his first qualification lap and is already halfway through it. Danny Sullivan in a brand-new Galmer powered by a Chevy.
At times, the combination of his good looks and the media attention that he receives overshadows how good he really is. Of course, he has won this race, and he is consistently a front runner. Just look back at Long Beach as he comes up to complete this first lap. Check the speed. Tainted, as it was a little bit because he touched Little Al at the end of that race. It was still a brilliant victory.
Well, the speed average for the first lap above 225 miles an hour for Danny Sullivan.
As I watch him, Paul, he's not really using an awful lot of track. And what this tells us is that he's sticking really good. He's handling good. Look at him there going in turn 3. Just down touches the white line, right back out.
Rick Gallis above 225 miles an hour. Will you accept that? Sounds good to me.
Really excited about this. This is a good run for Danny.
Rick and Sam, a question. Does Danny set his car up very differently from Little Al?
Not actually. We've been working real close together. Tony Cicali's with us this month, and he and Alan have been working real good together. And this is a good race car, and we've spent a lot of time working on race setups. We really haven't worked hard on qualifying because of the Buicks, and we think we got a good package for race day.
The second lap in at 225.383 miles an hour. Danny Sullivan working down the backstretch now at 228 miles an hour, a backstretch speed. On to the main stretch once again. And Rick Gallis in just a second will have a look at his third lap as he's already begun his final lap. Danny Sullivan averaging 224.6. What do you think, Rick?
Well, we're really excited about this run, and you know, Danny's done a good job, worked hard all month, and we're most excited about the race now because we've got a good race car.
Is this faster than you expected?
It really is. And with these conditions, you know, it's a little bit faster than I thought. So let's get him across and take the checker. We'll be okay.
The conditions being temperatures approaching 80 miles an hour. On the final lap now, Danny Sullivan sees the checkered flag ahead. And Danny Sullivan qualifies.
Out-qualifying his teammate, by the way.
And he slowed down just a little bit, not very much, but it looks like what he's gone into is maybe just a little bit of a front-end pushing problem because he's been cutting under the white lines a little bit lower, a little bit closer to the grass than normal.
That would be a problem they have described with this chassis that they've tried to work on. 224.1 miles an hour. That's the last lap. The four-lap average, 224.838 miles an hour. And Danny Sullivan qualifies for the 76th Indianapolis 500. We'll be back to talk with him right after this.
I'm Jack Arute, and we're with Danny Sullivan, who earlier today completed his qualifying run, good only for the middle of the third row. Danny, would have been any different if you had qualified yesterday?
Well, I'm not so sure whether the speed would have been or the position would have been any different, but I think the speed might have been different. It was cooler. It was ideal conditions. We had to readjust the car this morning for the first really hot, warm, humid day that we've had all week.
The entire team, both you and Al Jr., your teammate, have had their share of problems getting the Galmer dialed in for Indianapolis. So you feel you're getting closer now?
I think we're getting closer, but the car is very sensitive. Of course, we're the quickest Chevrolet A car out there, even quicker Ray Hall and some of the other ones that are supposed to have the great chassis. So we're not that far off the pace. It's just whether we're going to be able to run strong enough during the race to really compete with the Fords and the Buicks.
Next out was Eddie Cheever. And let's go back to Paul Page for the call.
On the track now, Eddie Cheever, in the warm-up session, he ran over 230 miles an hour, so this could definitely be a bid to the front row. Perhaps even a threat for Roberto Guerrero, though it's not likely. It's a Ford Cosworth-powered Lola out of the Chip Ganassi stable.
Eddie has been, in a sense, besieged this month, criticized by Mario Andretti after the two collided at Long Beach, and facing life in the garages there with a faster teammate, Ari Leyendyk, who was also a former winner. But you know, with all that, I think Eddie has remained very serene and very focused and proud of the fact I think he's driving better than he ever has.
His backstretch speed above 232 miles an hour.
Well, he certainly is, Sam, and if you watch him, he goes into the turns, he's getting way down underneath the white lines. Watch here, clear down close to the grass, using up all the racetrack he can. And the idea, of course, is to keep his speed up through the turns like that.
The first lap at 228.6 miles an hour. So not as quick as his fastest speed thus far in the month, and of course that blistering 230 that he ran this morning. Still not good enough to sit on the front row.
Still not good enough to out-qualify his teammate, Ari Leyendyk, but it's a marvelous one. And remember, Ari ran yesterday when the track conditions were nearly perfect. It was cooler and no wind at all.
This lap is a little bit faster. We'll see if it averages out that way. It does. 229.95 miles an hour.
Getting used to the racetrack a little bit. Remember, the heat changes. It's the first real heat we've had since the track opened here this month of May. So he's getting used to it a little bit.
His fastest front stretch was just turned at 230.7 miles an hour. There's the lap 2 summary. He came down the front stretch very, very quickly.
Keep in mind, that straightaway speed is predicated on how fast he comes to the turn. So his turn speed has been faster also.
Right now, he is headed for a position in the front row. He's going to nudge Ari Leyendyk, his teammate, out of the front row just barely if he can keep this speed up.
Eddie Cheever pokes his nose through the 230-mile-an-hour barrier in the fastest lap he has ever driven at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. A lap at 230.103 miles an hour. He's a threat for the front row. Great run on the backside. He's still keeping this speed up, and it's looking strong. His fastest turn 3 at 231 miles an hour. The speed continues to climb, and Eddie Cheever completes the run. Waiting for the final time and speed.
Just think, 227 miles an hour through some of the turns. They're normally 225 would be considered a good time. So he's really got the car handling good.
The 4-lap average, 229.6 miles an hour. The last lap, you see it there at 229.8, and that will make him second quick and put him in the middle of the front row for the moment. Michael Andretti, carrying the number 1 of the reigning PPG Cup champion, rolls out now. This again is a Ford Cosworth-powered car. Another possibility to take the pole away from Roberto Guerrero. You just saw we had an incredible performance from Eddie Cheever. Now can Michael Andretti do it better than that?
Now keep in mind, Michael Andretti would be what we would call the factory car, the factory driver. The Lola Factory's factory-type entry car in Ford Motor Company. Little golden-haired boy right now, and he's certainly about the hottest thing we have in the circuit.
Sometimes small things are significant. When Michael came down the pit lane moments ago to start this run, there was a blockage there. He had to delay, shook his fist momentarily. Sometimes that can release a lot of the tension that you feel when you're waiting in line for this all-important qualifying. I think we're going to see a loose run and maybe a very, very fast one from Michael.
Michael Andretti, one of the finest drivers in the Indy cars right now. He's been on the top of his form for several years now.
He won 10 of the poles for the last 20 races. Half of all the races he's been on the pole. Can he do it now?
The car out of the Newman Haas stable. Paul Newman, Carl Haas, the owners on the machine. As he turns now, looking for the green flag and is ready to begin his run. And Michael Andretti is on his way.
217 miles an hour in his warm-up lap. That's no less than we would expect it from Michael, but now is when it starts to count.
The other great young driver in IndyCar racing, of course, is Al Unser Jr., and both of them have won national championships, but neither Al nor Michael has ever won an Indy pole or ever won the race here at Indy, even though both have been second. Right now, Michael has a chance, even though it's a long shot, to take the pole.
Michael down the backstretch at 232 miles an hour. On the front stretch now. He came through turn 3 above 229, but fell off to 224. Through the 4th turn, there's Sandy Andretti, his wife, always nervous and apprehensive at a time like this. The first lap, 227.416 miles an hour.
When Rick Mears was injured the other day, though, Sandy was one of the first over the hospital there to be there with Chris. He's a wonderful person.
Now Michael will get his speed via radio to him. This is going to shake him up because this is not nearly as fast as what he's looking for, Paul. So he's probably going to pick it up, or at least try very hard to pick it up.
Most of the laps have been climbing throughout the run for about everybody here. If Michael Andretti would qualify with his current average, he'd qualify for the outside of the second row, but he picks the average up with a second lap. He's not satisfied, though. 228.4 miles an hour in a second lap.
Now, he can only be very disappointed. This only puts the achievement of Eddie Cheever in even a greater light because they have the same engine and roughly the same chassis.
What he's doing right now is getting this via radio.
Eddie Cheever, happy with his run.
He should be.
Wonder if he's even paying attention to what Michael's doing. I'm certain he is.
Oh, I bet he is.
Michael gets a call on the radio telling him what he's doing speed-wise, and he's sitting there trying to figure out what in the world am I doing wrong? Where am I losing? Is it turn speed? Is the pop-off valve popping? But he knows there's something wrong.
He picked up some speed on the backstretch on the last run and came it up to 232.9 miles an hour. His third lap at 228.6. That's his fastest lap yet. He's averaging 228.192. But still not fast enough to put him on the front row.
This, of course, is one of the guys we expected to run about 233 miles an hour in qualifying.
Completing now the 4th and final lap, the 10th mile of qualification. Sandy Andretti looks over at the watches. Obviously not a lot of smiles there, so the final lap at 228.1 miles an hour outside the second row. The 4-lap average at 228.169. Disappointing run for Michael.
I'll give you an example. The 230 miles an hour that he's going down the straight was compared to 240 earlier in the week.
There are the 4 laps. Run for Michael.
I'll give you an example. The 230 miles an hour that he's going down the straight was compared to 240 earlier in the week.
There are the 4 laps in the Valvoline summary, and the average 228.1 for Michael Andretti. So Michael Andretti is not fast enough to unseat Eddie Cheever from the center of the front row, nor take the pole. Right now, Eddie Cheever is with Jack Arute.
Well, Eddie Cheever, absolutely an incredible run, especially in the heat of the day. You really surprised a lot of folks. Did it surprise you?
My car was running really well this morning. We worked very hard to make it. I mean, Morris and I have been working hard for the past week, so has the whole team. And this morning it felt great. I knew I was going into the run. I was hoping to do a 2:31, but I had my eye on a goal, and I've achieved it.
An important goal as well, because your sometime teammate here just for Indy had already put a car in front row position. That gave you a lot to think about over the night.
Actually, I'm really glad I had Ari as a teammate. He helped the whole team a lot. He's a great asset. I would like to see him drive with us maybe sometime in the future. But I mean, Ari's been pushing me really hard the whole month, and I've been pushing him, and we have had a good flow of information. And I mean, I'm glad I have him on my side in the race, at least for the first 400 miles.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
So Eddie Cheever in the Indy 500. There are plenty of great souvenirs at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and plenty of great stories still coming up. Ted Prappus's car is undergoing a pre-qualifying technical inspection. Now, after Michael Andretti's run, Jack Arute had a chance to talk with him.
Michael, it's got to be a disappointing run.
It was, but the writing was on the wall this morning. For some reason, this engine's down on power, and I knew it this morning, but there was nothing we could do about it because there's no time to change it. So very, very disappointing to know that we should have had a shot at the pole, and we didn't, because I don't think it was the conditions that did it. It's just that we didn't have the power.
When you get out there and you start to put it right to the floor and you know that you're down on power, what's the frustration for 5 miles?
Well, it was really frustrating. After I saw the first lap, it was only 2:27. It was just big disappointment.
So still one key story. Tony Bettenhausen wasn't the only action in this morning's warm-up session. At the end of the session, Jim Crawford again blew an engine, sending his crew running back for an engine change. It was a pleasant surprise to suddenly see Jim Crawford's car make an appearance on the pit road with mechanics still struggling to install the engine. But in their haste to bring the car out to the line, one of the mechanics who was pushing the car, Mike Perkins, caught his foot under the left front wheel. The car ran over his leg. So Perkins writhed in pain on the pit lane while a number of crew members and other officials rushed to his assistance. And then a few minutes later, at the qualifying line, the car was pushed away. Apparently, the officials had ruled that it was not presented in an appropriate amount of time. So Jim Crawford, along with his Buick-powered car, headed back toward the garage area. What an up-and-down time for Crawford. At the end of yesterday's qualifying practice session, the engine blew. They took it to the garage area. A new engine was placed in the car, and it was brought back to the qualifying line, ready to qualify. But then time ran out. Then this morning, another practice session, another blown engine. But this time was not on Jim Crawford's side. So the man who had turned laps above 233 miles an hour, the fastest man all month, lost his chance for the pole. Jack Arute was right there.
Jim, you came close. You blew an engine in the last practice session, and you guys just thrashed at it, but you didn't make it in time for first day qualifying.
No, I think we missed it by 6 minutes there. It was a hell of a try, though. 40 minutes for an engine change. That's.
But on the way out, they were still working on the car.
Yeah, the rule book says we've got to be there when called for. So we just tried it. We brought it out in bits, and we thought we could maybe carry on building it in the line here, but they said no. So we'll go and finish it properly and just take a second day deal.
And with that, the run for the pole was over. Roberto Guerrero, officially the pole sitter for the 76th running of the Indy 500. Another great story, that of A.J. Foyt. He tried a run yesterday and waved off it. This is the final lap of his run today. A.J. Foyt running with a pretty good average above 223 miles an hour.
Some people think A.J. ought to retire. I gotta say I'm not one of them. At the age of 57, he was able to turn in this terrific run. And to my mind, A.J. Foyt is just as entitled to be in this race as anyone else who can qualify it. I love to see him race.
The average for 3 laps at 223.1 miles an hour. And then powered the car on through its 4th and final lap. And in doing so, was ready to run in his 35th Indianapolis 500-mile race. A.J. Foyt flashed across the yard of brick, took the checkered flag from Dwayne Sweeney. His 4-lap average at 222.790 miles an hour, and A.J. Foyt was in the race. A great qualifying run for the great A.J. Foyt of Houston, Texas. We'll return with more action from the time trials after this message and a word from our ABC stations. We're back live in Indianapolis, where Al Unser has climbed into the car originally assigned to Nelson Piquet and has begun to shake it down. We still have not seen an appearance by Jim Crawford anywhere today. He still has to qualify, and Ted Prappus's car has been pulled out of the line. Now, after A.J. Foyt's run, Gary Gerould had a chance to talk with him.
Well, A.J., I know there's got to be a great deal of satisfaction in qualifying for a 35th consecutive time, but I'm sure there was probably a little disappointment because the speed last evening would have put you much further up in the grid.
Well, that's quite true, and like I said today, you know, it's disappointing when something like that happens yesterday, and the car was working beautiful, and then like this morning, you had no practice. I just went to the qualifying line. In the first hot lap I had in the race car is when I took the green flag, and I don't care if you're young or old, that's kind of hard to do at this place because the wind really got me in trouble down in turn 3 and 4, you know, the last 2 laps. I got in serious problem.
The fact that you were running at over 226 miles per hour in the qualifying attempt Saturday evening, did that prove a point in your mind that the old talent is still very much there for A.J. Foyt?
Well, I think I proved a lot of things to a lot of people today, that even though I knew the car worked good yesterday, that you don't have to have all that practice.
And now you get ready for 500 miles once again at Indianapolis. Is this car, this team, is this driver capable of winning one more?
I think the biggest thing in this race right now, where I'm having to start, I'm going to have to be very careful for accidents starting back there. That's one reason I'm disappointed that what happened yesterday, where I could have started up front, because right now you can have to drive a smarts-up race, you know.
Well, we wish you safety and we wish you well. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Okay.
So with all that action, the field changed drastically. We showed you the grid earlier. Here now, after that action, is the way the grid's set, with Guerrero, now Eddie Cheever, Mario Andretti making up the front row. The second row, Lion Dyke, Gary Bettenhausen, Michael Andretti. In the third row, Scott Brayton, Danny Sullivan, Rick Mears. Row number 4, Bobby Rahal, Emerson Fittipaldi, Al Unser Jr. The fifth row, Stan Fox, John Andretti, Eric Bachelard. The sixth row, Philip Gott, Scott Pruitt, John Paul Jr. In row 7, Paul Tracy, Jeff Andretti, Scott Goodyear. And in the 8th row, A.J. Foyt and rookie Jimmy Vasser. Now this year has seen a diverse crop of rookies as any in recent times. One of them, who sadly will not make it into the race, is Nelson Piquet. He crashed heavily and is hospitalized. Our Sam Posey has his story.
During his 13 years in Formula One, Nelson Piquet won a total of 22 races and 3 world championships, an historic career. The end of last season, without a ride for 92, he went home to Brazil. Then came the offer to drive Indy, a scaled-down schedule that would allow him to enjoy life and still race. We spoke to him Thursday, just before his crash.
I'm nearly 40 now, and after everything I've done, I would like to have a little bit better quality of life. When I say quality of life, is maybe sleep in one bed for many days. You know, we're all in the road in Formula One. We've been all in hotels and different places, and different hotels, different payloads, and that's go forever. And I've been done for 13 years. You know, you miss everything. You miss, a house, a dog, everything.
The former world champion made driving at Indy look easy, running at over 228 miles an hour until this. Turn 4, a 360-degree spin head-on into the wall. Virtually injury-free in his years in Formula One, Nelson's luck had run out. The injuries to his feet and legs are brutal. What an irony that a man just starting to think about a life beyond racing suddenly faces that life with injuries that will make it very different than he could have imagined.
And yet there is some good news about the potential for him to recover from those injuries. Earlier today, Dr. Tom Southern and Dr. Terry Trammell operated on Nelson Piquet to inspect those injuries. They expected that he will be removed from the critical care unit and into a regular room later today. And then sometime during this week, Dr. Tom Southern will go in and begin the process of skin grafts. Good news all the way around for Nelson Piquet. Paul?
See those giant trucks? They transport the race cars, their teams, the extra engines. Some of them are even small machine shops. We'll be back with more from Indianapolis. Back at Indianapolis, what would an Indy 500 be without Mario Andretti? We take you back to his qualification run, the final 2 laps now. Mario had been averaging above 228.7 miles an hour.
Well, interestingly, this run was destined to be just a 1/10 of a mile an hour slower than Eddie Cheever's. Mario and Eddie will wind up on the side-by-side on the front row. Curious, isn't it? They crash into each other a couple of weeks ago at Long Beach. Harsh words are exchanged. Each man comes here on his medal and pumped up, and each turns in his best performance of the year so far. I hope they settle their differences before turn 1 on the first lap of the race, and I'm sure they will.
Murray is one of these guys that really has invented running under the white line. Watch him as he goes down. He gets real close to the walls coming off. But when he goes down into the turns, he really gets down close to the grass. At one time, USAC was even trying to make it rule he couldn't do that.
Mario's third lap at 229 miles an hour. A solid qualifying run for this car, owned by Paul Newman and Carl Haas. The 1969 winner of the Indy 500 completes his run, and Mario Andretti qualifies for the outside of the front row. As Mario slows down, the final time for Mario's 4-lap run came up at 229.503 miles an hour. So Mario Andretti completed a qualifying run, and with doing so, sat on the outside of the front row. Now don't forget, coming up next, one terrific race, the International Race of Champions from Talladega. And I'll tell you, you got to stay through the whole thing, but do not miss the last lap. Now, another great story at the Speedway is that of Mark Dismore, a rookie, but with great credentials. There is much more fame and glory to be won in Indianapolis, but there's also pain and disappointment. Sam Posey has the story of Mark Dismore.
Last year, on the day before qualifying, rookie Mark Dismore from Greenfield, Indiana, crashed into the pit wall and suffered multiple fractures. His lifelong dream of making the field for the Indy 500 ended for the moment in the hospital.
The next 2 weeks were really tough for me emotionally. I mean, I not only broke my body, I broke my heart, you know, because ever since I was a little kid, I wanted to come here and be in this race. I mean, I guess especially growing up in Indiana, I mean, it's such a big part of the entire heritage here.
His injury is not fully healed, and his car's gaudy paint job suggesting a confidence he doesn't feel. Mark is back again at Indy this year. 4 weeks ago, he won a Formula Atlantic race, a big step, but he still feels like he doesn't quite belong at Indy. Why did he come back?
Until I can go around this place and qualify and get in the show, you know, I do feel that way, exactly. I feel like an outsider, and I want to be a part of this thing, and in the worst way. But by the same token, I sure as hell don't want to do anything foolish, you know, to force the issue.
Another rookie attempting to qualify in the race and getting some great advice was Lynn St. James. Al Unser Jr. giving her a hand yesterday. And then finally Lynn St. James out on her qualification run, but the laps had been very disappointing. 215 miles an hour up to 216. Her crew was evaluating those runs and trying to decide whether or not those speeds would be fast enough. They were especially disappointing considering that she had been faster than that. Apparently what happened was Lynn St. James was trying to listen to the pop-off valve, as all drivers do, but being a rookie was unfamiliar with the sound. The valve was open, bleeding both pressure and horsepower out of the engine and preventing the lap from being any kind of speed at all. And then finally Dick Simon ordered the car waved off and the J.C. Penney car was brought into the pits. And Lynn St. James had yet to wait to qualify for the 500-mile race. Two of these drivers, Guerrero and Cheever, have never been on the front row. And it's an absolute fairy tale for Roberto Guerrero. A terrific run, the only man to run 4 laps over 230 miles an hour. This was his run yesterday. A spectacular run for Roberto Guerrero, despite the fact that the racetrack had slowed down for everyone else. It had not for Bobby G.
Roberto Guerrero, of course, had a great debt to settle here at this track. In 1987, when he was a real golden boy in racing, he finished second twice here at Indianapolis. He won other races. He had a terrible crash. He was in a coma for several days, and after that, car owners really couldn't get confident in Roberto, and his career went into sort of limbo. Well, this is setting a precedent for the fact that Roberto is very much back. He is intact and racing brilliantly.
You know, he's not only back, Stan, he's really looking good. All month, he's been running without problems. The car, if you watch it now, he's hardly getting down below the white line. That means the car's really sticking like glue. He's got a lot of confidence into it because, remember, he's going down the straightaway, not too much less than 240 miles an hour. He's running wide open into the turn.
7:07 on the time.
The lap 2 summary at 232 miles an hour, and the crowd continued to urge Roberto Guerrero on with their cheers. Surprisingly enough, Guerrero told me that the car did not react to the hot sun. It reacted only to wind, and there was very little wind.
Yeah, everybody else lost 2 or 3 miles an hour yesterday, and we got to the point where we thought the track was just slow. And then out came Roberto for this great run. He's been living by himself in a house he owns here at Indianapolis, really missing his wife Katie and his family. It's fantastic to see him achieve this. You see what it meant to the crew.
Another lap reported out at better than 232 miles an hour. Kenny Bernstein is ecstatic.
It's a good team, and it's a fairy tale story from the start to the end. What Sam brought up about him being hurt and coming back now, it really looks like his head is finally back on really good.
And while they didn't know it at that moment, when the checkered flag came out, Roberto Guerrero would become the only man in the first day to qualify all 4 laps over 230 miles an hour. And when the run for the pole was complete, Roberto Guerrero would be the man to occupy the pole position. 232.482 miles an hour. It was a long wait, but Roberto Guerrero was finally on top of the racing world.
On race day, another winner being honored right now. Capping off the ceremonies with a presentation from PPG, Jim Chapman with a check for $100,000 to Roberto Guerrero. He'll also get the keys to a new StarCraft band. Congratulations, Roberto. It's reality now. The check is literally in hand. It's got to be a great moment in a career that's seen more than its ups and downs.
Oh, I'll tell you, Gary, it's wonderful to hold this check in my hand, and I didn't really sleep very much last night. You know, it was kind of a long night, a long day, a long wait, and it's finally mine for sure. Nobody can take it away, so I'm really thrilled. And I'd like to thank Jim and PPG for their great award for $100,000, and I'm going to appreciate it very much, especially receiving it from Jim.
How concerned were you that your teammate, Jim Crawford, might be able to take this check away?
Well, I was very, not only him, but Michael and Eddie were running very fast. There were still 3 cars that had a very realistic shot, and for that reason, I didn't want to, I just didn't want it to slip away so badly.
And so now you start thinking about 500 miles and maybe a return visit to this platform for even bigger prize money.
Oh, I'll tell you, that would be definitely a lot nicer. So like you said, we now need to put these to one side and start working on a race setup, and I think we're going to look pretty good in the race too.
We look forward to race day. Congratulations, Roberto Guerrero. We'll go back to Paul Page.
The check was dated yesterday. It took him to today to earn it. Well, here are some drivers still to qualify as we look down a list of about 17 guys who have opportunities yet to make it into the Indianapolis 500-mile race, and there is time to do so, not only today, but in 2 more days of qualifying next weekend. Some great names there. We'll be back with more from Indianapolis. In the time trials from Indianapolis, 8.5 rows are now set with Roberto Guerrero solidly on the pole. Eddie Cheever with his Ford Power in the center of the front row. Mario Andretti outside. The second row, Ari Lyondike, Gary Bettenhausen with the Buick, and Michael Andretti. The third row, Scott Brayton, Danny Sullivan, Rick Mears. Down in the fourth row, it's Bobby Rahal, Emerson Fittipaldi, and Al Unser Jr. The fifth row, Stan Fox, the great midget driver, John Andretti, and rookie Eric Bachelard. In the sixth row, rookie Philip Gott, Scott Pruitt, and John Paul Jr. In the seventh row, rookie Paul Tracy, Jeff Andretti driving for A.J. Foyt, and the Canadian Scott Goodyear. In the eighth row, the great A.J. Foyt himself, and rookie Jimmy Vasser. So there are still 3 rows to be filled and 1 position. We will have live coverage of the greatest spectacle in racing, the Indianapolis 500, Sunday, May 24th at 11 o'clock Eastern. Do not miss that coverage. We're looking forward to an incredible Indy 500. The executive producer of the Indianapolis 500 time trials is Jack O'Hara. Today's show was produced by Bob Goodrich, directed by Don Ohlmeyer. Technical director Joey Chavo, Richard Drummond. Associate producers Ben Harvey and Debbie Cole. Feature producer Emily Deutsch. Associate directors Norm Samet and Patrick McManus. So the pole has been won by Roberto Guerrero, his first pole position at Indianapolis. And with the incredible speeds, it's only a prediction of what is to come when the 33 roll to the line. I'm Paul Page for Sam Posey, Bobby Unser, Jack Arute, and Gary Gerald. So long for now, and join us on race day.
Since 1911, for 76 years, excluding the war era, great drivers and mechanical masters. Welcome back to Indianapolis Motor Speedway and the second day of qualifying for the Indy 500 in the 76th running thereof. The late afternoon shadows stretch across the front straightaway, and yet the temperature lingers up around the 80-degree mark. Heat is the enemy of speed here at Indy, and so the drivers wait till the end of the day to turn in their fastest performances. Hello, everyone. I'm Dave Despain with ESPN racing analyst Derek Daly, where we've played a bit of a hurry-up-and-wait game ourselves here today, not unlike the boat race. They wait for the end of the day to find the speed.
That's right. We've had many people practice today, but the Buicks of Jim Crawford and Al Unser Sr., who ran very fast about an hour ago, are the ones that are ready now to run in this, what they call happy hour session.
Crawford has been the fastest man here all month, but motor problems denied him the opportunity to win the pole. That honor fell to his teammate, and we'll take a look now at the starting grid as it stands as we head into this dramatic final half hour. Roberto Guerrero with a tremendous speed leap from the old record of 225 to the new of 232. He has the pole in a Buick. Eddie Cheever with a Ford is alongside the fastest man today in an unusual second day of pole qualifying. The veteran Mario Andretti outside row 1, his second year up front in a row. Ari Lyondike with another Ford inside row 2. Gary Bettenhausen in a Buick in the middle. And Michael Andretti rounds out the family clan story.
Moving down to row 3, Scott Brayton, who changed from the Chevrolet to the Buick, is on the inside. Danny Sullivan, the fastest Chevrolet qualifier. And then an unusual position for Rick Mears. Row 4, Bobby Rahal. He's happy enough with that. Emerson Fittipaldi very unhappy, and Al Unser Jr. in the Galmer that most people thought would have a major problem here at the Speedway.
In row 5, a statistical correction from our earlier show. Stan Fox's car is a 91, and he put it inside row 5 alongside John Andretti, third member of the family. Eric Bachelard outside. Row 6 has Philippe Gauche. Scott Pruitt, and John Paul Jr.
Row 7, Paul Tracy, the rising star, driving for Roger Penske. Then we come to A.J. Foyt's second car, driven by Jeff Andretti. Scott Goodyear, very disappointed. He ran over 224 earlier in the week. Row 8, A.J. Foyt himself makes his 35th start at the Indianapolis 500. Raoul Boesel jumped in this morning and qualified Hiro Matsushita's car, and beside him is Jimmy Vasser.
The remains of what has been a crowd of up to 250,000 people here during the course of this weekend to watch pole qualifying. 3 men will cover pit road for us today. Gary Lee is there, and along with Marty Reed, and the man we'll hear from first, Dr. Jerry Punch.
Thank you very much, Dave. When we last left you, they were trying to reassemble the Buick-powered power plant in the Quaker State Lola behind me. They have reassembled the car, brought it back to pit road. They are getting ready to go through USAC tech inspection, and finally, yes, finally, 44-year-old Jim Crawford may have a chance to go out and qualify. To my right, there is Jim Crawford standing. In fact, let's walk over and just get a quick thought here before he gets in the car. Jim, getting ready to go back out. I know you've been waiting. You're probably tired of waiting. Your thoughts prior to going out and getting the lap? You just ran a few laps at, what, 225, 226?
I thought that was 228.5. Sorry, I must have missed those. Yeah, the car's okay. We're just going to drive it around. It'd be nice to go out there and blast it, but they want the car in the race, so.
It's got to be difficult. You've been the quickest man here all month long. Kenny Bernstein said the one side of him wants you to go out and just blister it and show him what you can do with the Buick. The other side says go out and get it 4 laps in at 226, 228, that range, get in the field, and then work on the race setup.
My sentiments entirely. Yeah, it'd be nice, but I say we're not to forget what we came here to do, which is the 500-mile race.
Jim Crawford focused to go qualify at 44 years of age, trying to make his 7th Indy 500 start, getting ready for his qualifying run. Let's go up pit road to Marty Reed.
Well, thanks, Doc. We were just watching Lynn St. James be pulled back. They're going to get refuel, but they are chasing their tails right now. The change in weather conditions has really thrown this team for a loop. They are down on boost. 42 inches is the max they've been able to get. And the other problem they are having is the tire setup. The stagger's all wrong, and there are discussions going on also as far as the wing settings. They can't seem to make up their minds which way they want to go. So we'll find out. 219 is the magic number for them. Anything less, they're going to wave it off.
You must feel some sympathy for St. James attempting to become the second woman ever to make the 500 field, but you must feel tremendous sympathy for Jim Crawford. He came here, and on Monday, in only the 3rd day of practice, topped 233, ran fewer than 100 laps of practice, and yet when in the big moment came, the engine blew and he didn't get to run for the pole. Let's go back trackside to Gary Lee.
Well, actually, we're standing alongside the car that Al Unser Sr. will attempt to qualify momentarily. They had the car in tech. It was moved out of tech because this hole was not there. This is a repaired side pod after Gary Bettenhausen wrecked this car in a practice crash. This hole was not there. That's where they hang the 50-pound weight to determine the ground clearance. They had to take the car out of line, drill the hole. Now they're going to go back in. Earlier, Big Al had been up to about 222, and he came back in, complained to Gary Bettenhausen. The car felt like it was loose, like it was going to spin. Gary said, no, it won't talk to you until you get to 224. Big Al went out, went 224. They said, that's fast enough. Let's qualify it. Dave?
All right, that's the mark of the veteran, and the 4-time winner hopes to crack the starting lineup today, along with the man who has been fastest all month. They wait for the cool of the afternoon, and you'll see it on ESPN. The all-important bump day and last chance to have a crack at the field. If you have missed our first show today, well, we had some interesting developments here in the run for the Indy 500 pole. To briefly update that story, we had rain yesterday. It delayed qualifying very late in the day. Everyone is entitled to at least one crack at the pole, and some of those drivers had to wait until this afternoon. Today has been hot, and that has kept the speeds down somewhat, although Eddie Cheever turned in a great run to take the middle of the front row. Now, we still have the headliners in Al Unser Sr. and Jim Crawford still to qualify. Buddy Lazier, who's been reasonably quick this month, in fact, at one point was 10th on the speed chart, has not yet made a run. Gordy Johncock, 6th place finisher a year ago. Mark Dismore trying to come back from last year's horrendous crash. St. James, of whom we spoke earlier, and Crawford. Those are the drivers still to qualify, and getting a shot at that here this afternoon. Tony Bettenhausen had a crash this morning. Didier Tays has just been out making warm-up laps, and so these would be qualifiers as of day 2. Now, we are going to be going trackside here in just a moment for an update, but here is the critical story, and that is the temperature. It's hot, and that makes it hard to go fast.
79 degrees. You mentioned it earlier. This can be the enemy of speed. We mentioned it earlier, but when the track surface gets very hot, these cars lose grip and the engines lose horsepower. That's why, although it's warm, they wait for the shadows to come over this front stretch in turn one and try and make things a little bit faster.
It takes a chapter in the USAC rule book to explain qualifying procedure. We boil it down to a few lines. If your car is in the qualifying line at 6 o'clock on Saturday, you were allowed a chance this morning, and those were the cars first in line. The day 2 qualifiers all lined up behind that, and the best they could do was inside row 8, which now belongs to A.J. Foyt. Marty Reed is standing by with the man who has had a roller coaster week here, Kenny Bernstein, the owner of the pole-sitting car and of Jim Crawford's machine, still waiting to qualify. Marty?
Well, you're absolutely right, Dave. It has been a roller coaster, especially the last 48 hours before Jim Crawford. You're on the pole, but still struggling to get this one in.
We surely are, and I'm really...
Crawford, you're on the pole, but still struggling to get this one in.
We surely are, and I'm really sorry that Jim didn't get the opportunity to go for the pole. We sure tried hard, but just a combination of problems, kind of what they call racing luck. But we're going to go out this afternoon and see if we can get him qualified and get him in this field so we can go to work next week.
Were you worried something like this might happen? Because things were running so smoothly all week long.
It's been a great week. It has been a smooth week. You know, half the body says we're happy for Roberto Guerrero. Obviously, the pole, that's a great accomplishment, but the other half we're not because Crawford didn't get his shot. But, you know, it has been up and down, and this is tough. But, you know, it's always that way. Two-car teams are tough to handle, and it's tough at Indianapolis anytime.
Well, who knows? Maybe he'll turn out like Gary Bentonhausen last year, run even faster, even though he won't have the pole, and you'll be able to claim the 2 fastest speeds here at the Speedway.
Well, we're going to try it for the Quaker State Buick, I'll tell you that.
Fire is on the motor, so we are getting ready to watch Jim Crawford pull out of here as he'll make his attempt 4 laps. We'll be back for that in a second.
Jim Crawford on the 4th turn and coming down in anticipation of a truly long-awaited qualifying run here. Crawford, whose 233.432 mile-per-hour practice lap stands as the fastest lap in the history of this racetrack, drew the last qualifying number. One of the ironies yesterday of pole day, he did not get to run combination of the late number and the blown engine in practice, but now, finally, Derek, Crawford will get his chance.
He will get his chance. This is just coming down to turn 3, now into turn 4 of his first official lap. Crawford has been so spectacular here all week. They love to see him run here. He's known as a very brave driver, and Jim still suffers very badly from injuries he received back in 1987 from a terrible crash here at turn 1, right about where he passes now.
Crawford, the Scotsman who comes here with an impressive record of IndyCar credentials, and perhaps the most impressive of all, his courage in coming back from that crash. The first lap at 39.341 seconds, that's 228.7 miles per hour, and that's about what he predicted. I got the clear sense from the few words, and that's characteristic of Jim Crawford, that he didn't plan to go after a 230-mile-an-hour lap.
I would almost say this might even be faster because the ease with which Crawford is able to extract speed from this car-driver-engine combination really has been quite amazing. Now, we heard in the interview earlier on he just wanted to be nice and steady, but now this is a second lap and he actually bumps that up to above 229 miles an hour.
229.113, the number for lap 2. You're seeing it live from Indianapolis, and I wonder if his racer blood isn't up a little bit here. Easy to say, you're just going to go out and cool it, but when the car is working and the track is fast, there's a tremendous temptation to put your foot in it and see what it'll do.
Jim Crawford has done more testing miles for a Buick on the Speedway here than any other driver here this month. He really has carried this program as his wife Sheila watches Jim perform, but he has been part of this Buick development program for so many years now. Although he only races one time a year, he's spectacular when he does come here.
228.5, the third lap. Remember, it's a 4-lap average with which one qualifies, and the average down a bit at 228.823 miles per hour. The best that Crawford can do, and almost certainly will do today, will be the inside of row 8. He would move A.J. Foyt back a spot. The power plant, a V6 push-rod Buick, a so-called stock block that gets a little boost advantage here. He's got the boost cranked up.
Passes the start-finish line, takes the checkered flag safely in the field. This is exactly what they needed. Now they can work on race setup, because the race setup is totally different. They need to run with 40 gallons of fuel on board. The car is much heavier. They need to run in traffic behind each other, because the race day is a totally different ball game than the flat-out style of qualifying that we've seen over the last 2 days.
Those were the 6th fastest numbers he would have been outside row 2 had Jim Crawford been able to qualify yesterday. We'll be back with Al Unser Sr. right after this. You're watching Al Unser, 4-time winner, bring his car to speed in preparation of a qualifying attempt late in the afternoon. The second day of qualifying, the first day that he's even set seat in that car. I'm impressed with that.
Walked around yesterday looking for a ride, talking to people, said to everybody he wouldn't drive a car unless it was a competitive machine. We know this Lola Buick setup is very, very competitive. He sat into it this morning, was immediately fast. Gary Betton hasn't shook the car down for him, but in practice he was very easily above 224 miles an hour. So they decided today is the day. Now Al Unser, remember, has taken over cars before very late in the program, like in 1987 when he took over that 86 March for Penske and went on to be the winner.
Won the race, got that right actually on the second weekend of qualifying, and won the 500 after Danny Ongais was injured. He certainly has the experience. He certainly has the cool. It is sad that this opportunity for Unser was opened by the crash for Nelson Piquet, which so badly injured his feet and left the opening on the Menard team. Here again, the emotional roller coaster of racing at Indianapolis. Unser now trying to just put that car solidly in the field, and again, the irony, he'll move his old racing rival A.J. Foyt back a notch if he can run 224.
You mentioned emotional roller coaster in racing. Al Unser Sr., the last time he drove, he was involved in a very heavy crash at Michigan, where when he drove the Alfa Romeo, it had a suspension failure, hit the wall very, very hard, and severely broke his right leg.
223 won the first lap. That would put him comfortably in the 23rd starting spot as he comes down now and takes the green flag. Now we have set speed traps on this course. The Tag Heuer people have put the speed traps that provide the opportunity not to consider overall lap time, but rather car speed at the fastest point on the racetrack, the end of the backstretch, and also in the short chute between turns 3 and 4. And it'll be interesting to see the numbers there. The second lap at 223.914, upping the tempo a pretty good bit, 0.8 of a mile an hour.
That is good. To give you an idea of the type of information we get from these speed traps, people ask how fast do these cars go down the straight. Well, the fastest cars down the straight this month have been the Ford cars. They were near the 240 mile an hour range. But the amazing thing, Al Unser Jr. is out watching what his dad does. The amazing thing is, he touches the wall coming through the short chute. Al Unser Sr., that is a very risky thing to do. Now, he just brushed it, so I'm not sure that he even felt it, but it looks to me as if he actually did make contact.
Look at the numbers, 223.914, identical to 1,000 of a mile an hour to his previous lap. You cannot be more consistent than that. Identical laps.
Al Sr. complained after the practice session to Gary Bettenhausen that he thought the car was a little bit loose. Gary said, you got to go harder. He takes the checkered flag. He is safe. But that car does look a little bit loose. We watched him go through the corner. The rear wiggles around a little bit. But Al Sr., I think, definitely painted Goodyear along the wall on one of those short chutes.
He touched the wall and still up the speed to 223.998 on the last lap. Qualifying average 223.744. A remarkable performance for Al Unser Sr., who will occupy the middle of row 8 as Junior looks on. Quite a day for the Unser family. Their legacy continues here at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Interesting bits of trivia. The number of races prior to 1992 qualifying. A.J. Foyt with 34, Mario with 26. Al Unser has just earned his 26th start in the 500. What does it take to do a 230-mile-an-hour lap at Indy? Well, according to the Tag Heuer speed trap, a front stretch speed of 240, a turn one speed of 229. Those were the best numbers of the month recorded by Jim Crawford.
The amazing thing about those figures is the 240 is not much quicker than these cars went 10 years ago, but the cornering speeds are what are so staggering. Let's go down to Marty Reed.
Jim, it has been one of those months where, you know, we thought everything finally would fall into place for you. I'm sure you did too, but then your luck at this track has never been all that great. What's the last 48 hours been like for you?
Typical. Qualifying at Indianapolis is never easy. This was just normal. Luck seems to throw everything it can at you here, and well, hopefully the crew have kept in one piece. They've been working so hard. There was an engine change this morning in 40 minutes, which is unheard of. And I think we'll have to regroup tonight and come out tomorrow looking for a race setup.
Now you got 2 weeks. Congratulations, you're in the show safely. Let's go back to the action on the track.
Man of few words, Jim Crawford lets his throttle foot do the talking. Buddy Lazier is on the racetrack, having waved off his qualifying attempt yesterday. Every driver has 3 opportunities to put a car in the field. He waved off an average of something close to 219 miles an hour, having circulated in practice at 223, raising the inevitable qualifying question, where did all that speed go?
That's right. The thing that interests me is just watch his head weave from side to side as he picks up speed down this back stretch. There is a tremendous amount of buffeting in that car, and that can be very, very uncomfortable. Just look at the buffeting on this. This is incredible. This is as bad as I've seen, I think, all month. That is very disconcerting for a driver because it's so difficult to keep your eyes focused on the turn that you're approaching at about 225 miles an hour.
Pit road observation from Gary Lee.
I went up to veteran crew chief A.J. Watson, said, what'd you guys change on this car after the aborted attempt yesterday? He said, well, we changed engines. I said, how about ride heights? He said, well, we also changed 2 springs, but that's it.
Buddy Lazier out of Vail, Colorado on the racetrack, single guy, attempting to crack the 500 field here. Comes out of the motocross and pro Formula Ford background, and he's got a shot.
And actually racing is his second sport. He's a downhill competition skier. That was his first love. His dad, in fact, owns the Tivoli Lodge right at the bottom of the ski slopes in Vail, Colorado.
And so as Lazier rounds out his qualifying effort, we'll be back in a moment to tell you how he has fared as the second day qualifying continues from Indianapolis Motor Speedway. First black man ever to drive in this 76-year-old motorsports classic that is very much a rite of spring here in Indiana. On the racetrack now, Fabrizio Barbosa, who had the misfortune of being the first driver to smack the wall here. That happened on Sunday last week. He is on his qualifying attempt now, and this is his first crack at it. He's got a pretty good, and he's touched the wall and hit it hard. Car is approximately under control, or roughly under control, as he keeps it straight down the middle of the backstretch, but with that front wheel bent out like that, how much steering ability did he have?
And that's it. He can make it back to the pits definitely, because these cars are so stiffly sprung, but the chances are with the grinding on the ground, he'll just stop there, and that may finish our running for the day here. But we saw him actually go through turn 2. He washed out of the groove with understeer, got into the gray, and when that happens, you really can never get it back, because you can't get on the brakes here and slow yourself down enough to make a correction, because things happen so fast. But Barbosa, not in good shape, but we can take a look at a replay of exactly what happened to him. It was on his 3rd qualifying lap. This is entering turn 2. He goes down to the white line. Everything looks normal here. Now remember, he's above 215 or 220 miles an hour at all times through these corners. Everything looks good, still looks good. Now look what happens. Washes out of the groove. There's the groove. Now he's in the gray. It's so difficult to get it back.
And you saw that he was laying down that black strip of rubber when he got to the gray. The car is already sliding toward the wall, and it was a masterful job to keep it from spinning. He did, in fact, the art carried him out, and he smacked the wall. Second contact happened to him a week ago today. Apparently no injury. The car damaged badly. No, he's out of the car. There is Barbosa, a former 3rd place finisher here. Al Unser has recorded the 12th fastest qualifying time of the week. Let's go trackside and hear from him with Marty Reed.
They say experience and cream always rises to the top. I tell you, you just jump in it. day later or the same day, you put it in the field, nice and solid, 223.
Well, everything went good for me today, you know, thanks to a good team, and Gary helped me tremendously. You know, he kind of coached me and told me what the car would do, and I never changed the car, so, you know, I didn't have time, really, and that short a time.
I got to ask you, you know, you touched the wall out there. Did you feel it?
Well, Gary said to use all the racetracks, so I did. I didn't mean to do that. I knew I was close, but sometimes you misjudge when you try to go, you know, extend yourself, and that's all.
Well, it's great to see you in the field again. We'll be looking for you on Memorial Day. Let's go to Dr. Jerry Punch.
Thank you very much, Marty. I'm with the man they call Super.
Moving on down through the field, Cheever, Andretti, Lyondike, Bettenhausen, Andretti, Brayton. We're behind it, Sullivan, Mears, Ray Hall, Fittipaldi, and Unser Jr., Fox, Andretti, Bachelard, Gosh, Pruitt, and Paul Jr., Tracy, Andretti, that's Jeff Andretti, and Scott Goodyear. And then from day 2, Crawford, Unser, Foyt, Lazier, Bozell, and Vassar. Quick update from Marty Reed.
One thing to think about, Lynn St. James did not get a run today. She's got to think about it all week long. Derek Daly, you know what that's like. It's pressure, pressure, pressure.
It's a pressure-packed situation, Marty. I'm sorry that Lynn St. James falls into that situation, but there's a lot of work to be done by a lot of drivers, and there are 6 more positions to be filled in what could be another good weekend of qualifying next week.
We'll be here to cover it on ESPN. For Derek Daly, our analyst, and from trackside, Dr. Jerry Punch, Gary Lee, and Marty Reed, I'm Dave Despain. It is the greatest spectacle in racing, the 76th Indy 500. We'll be back next weekend.